Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch every one and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we watched the last 4 episodes of Season 1 of The Muppet Show in their New York airing order. So these are the episodes featuring guests Kaye Ballard, Mummenschanz, Avery Schreiber, and Juliet, Prowse. And we also watched some Muppet appearances on some TV shows, including Dinah and Good Day, which both have exclamation points in their names. And we watched a really weird crew video that the UK crew made for the US Muppet performers at the end of season 1 to sort of thank them and say, hey, it was good working with you. And it's very strange, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
It's very cute also.
Oh, yeah, it's very endearing, but one of those things that clearly was like not supposed to be seen outside of one room ever. But before we get into talking about The Muppet Show this week, we needed to cover some recent news in the Muppet world. Just recently, English Heritage, which I don't, again, this is going to be, I don't know anything about England. So prefacing this whole section with that is that I don't know anything about England. But English Heritage has unveiled a blue plaque on Jim Henson's home in North London in England. And the blue plaque essentially is like a big deal saying, hey, this spot has cultural significance to the world. It should be preserved. It is important.
If you're American, it's like those historic landmark markers that we have in front of old houses and buildings and stuff.
Yeah, like I know that there's like certain like baseball stadiums and certain buildings that get landmark status, and this essentially says that like, hey, this place is important, treat it with respect, and also you're not allowed to change things ever.
I think it's funny that the ones here are like huge paragraphs of background information about the house that you're looking at, and this one just says, Jim Henson lived here.
Yeah, it doesn't say when he lived there. It didn't say for how long. It literally just says Jim Henson, the years he lived, and then says creator of the Muppets, lived here.
Or straight to the point. You can look it up on your own time if you want to know more.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, during this time that we're talking about today, which is like March 1977 through September 1977, there was a note in Jim's Red Book about him moving into his own house. It was not this house, but it was like sort of moving into a new house in England, sort of getting settled, because it seems like he jumped around a lot when he was living in London during the production of The Muppet Show. But the house that they gave the blue plaque to is the one that he moved into when they were starting to develop the Dark Crystal more, and he needed like a permanent spot. And then it also ended up being important because he purchased the old post office right across the street from this house, which became the headquarters for Jim Henson's Creature Shop.
The whole, like, worldwide headquarters for it?
Yeah, the Creature Shop was based in London, and then, like, the Muppet Studios were based in New York, which is why there's, like, somewhat of, like, a rivalry between those two companies over time, and they start to hate each other at different times because it just became really inconvenient for certain projects that it was based in two parts of the world.
Oh, okay, yes, because the Creature Shop is where they made the little freaky monsters and stuff, and not
pretty
the
much
cute Muppets.
Yeah, anything that wasn't cute was made in the Creature Shop.
Anything that had what looked like human skin instead of fabric.
But as part of this blue plaque, again, presentation, I don't really know how they would refer to it, but as part of this, they had Ralph on BBC News to interview him about sort of his feelings about Jim Henson and about this honor that was being bestowed upon the house in tribute to Jim Henson. And it was a very sweet, random interview that I would not have expected them to, like, I expect Brian Henson or one of the Henson family members to be on BBC News talking about this. Yes, or Kermit. But they had Ralph on, which was, I think, a very sweet choice. We obviously love Ralph here. But, yeah, Ralph is also appropriately sad in this interview.
Mm-hmm. It feels like it purposefully takes like a page out of the Jimmy Dean era Rolf too, where he is kind of like pretending a little bit that he was Jim's dog, or like they had a dog master relationship, and the whole thing ends with a song too, which I thought was really, it's like putting a lot of the same emotion on Jimmy Dean and Rolf's relationship onto Jim and Rolf, which I thought was, I don't know if it was an accident or like on purpose or what, but I thought that was interesting that they structured it that way.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, this might come across as like a weird version of Rolf, that he's so sad and sentimental and talking this way about Jim. But I think the only version of this Rolf that we've really seen before is on the Jimmy Dean show. So it is strange to sort of bring that Rolf back. I'm a fan of it. I like him having those heartfelt moments, but even when the like newscaster was sort of trying to move on to talk about other Muppet things, he started like talking about Jim being gone, and he started singing My Buddy in a way that like the newscaster didn't necessarily seem like he knew that Rolf was going to start singing My Buddy.
Yeah. Yes. It was more maudlin, I think, than the person expected a Muppet interview to be.
Yeah. It does end up, at the end of the interview, ends with Rolf pitching Muppet Haunted Mansion, that people should watch that.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. And he signs off with Cheerio, which was good.
He's doing his best. I mean, I guess at heart, Rolf is a pitch man, so...
All right, so we watched a lot of Muppet Show. Actually, we watched less Muppet Show, I guess, than we've watched in past episodes.
Yeah.
But how about you go ahead and tell us about the Muppet Show that we did watch this week, Sam?
On March 7th, 1977, Kaye Ballard trod the boards of the Muppet Theater. Kaye Ballard was a vaudevillian and frequent TV show guest star, but I have to admit that even my own mother, who offered to be my 70s, person expert, did not know who Kaye Ballard was, so I don't have a lot of info about her. So anyway, the backstage plot here revolves around the Muppet Orchestra musicians, led by Floyd, staging a walkout because they hate playing the, quote, terminally square Muppet Show theme song every week. Despite pleas and promises from Kermit, Nigel, and Kaye, the musicians ultimately walk out after the show is over, leaving Rolf to play the closing credits all by himself. My subjective standout moments include the backstage plot, which is probably my favorite backstage plot so far. It kind of puts in a bunch of characters that you don't spend a lot of time with, like mixes up different combos of people talking to each other, and it leads to the extremely good piano-only end credits, which I kept thinking, like, how are they going to do this? And I was very happy they committed to doing it. The talk spot is also good. Kaye is trying to mediate a discussion about the theme between Kermit and Animal, but it ends up with Kermit tied in a knot, which is pretty funny. And the Electric Mayhem play their own avant-garde and completely terrible version of the Muppet Show theme, which ruled. And Kaye and Piggy have a rivalry with each other that was very fun to watch. But there was one low light. Thog is back, and he's up to his old goddamn tricks, singing a love duet with Kaye and dancing around, and I didn't want to see it.
In my notes, I put, sweet Thog that Sam's gonna hate. I also didn't love it.
I didn't want him back. I liked what we were doing with him before. The next was the Swedish experimental mime group Mummenschanz. The backstage plot is about Gonzo being in love with Piggy, which she finds repulsive. Kermit tricks her into agreeing to go on a date with him, and then by the end, she's punching both of them a lot because she hates the whole situation. Standout moments here. Mummenschanz wasn't really my cup of tea exactly, but their talk spot is very fun. They basically all have these different weird masks on and react to what Kermit is saying by like blowing up balloons in their eyes or spitting out bubbles or like having weird things come out of various holes on their heads. And I laughed very hard at the end when Piggy, who is fed up with Gonzo being a creep to her, says, "I'm going to send you on a one-way trip to the geek farm." And then he screams and he opens his arms wide, welcoming his obliteration, and he says, "Send me." And then she like uppercuts him to space. It's pretty good. It's a good combo of Gonzo, who loves to be harmed, being in love with a person who loves to harm people.
That's true. They're the perfect match. They just don't realize it. Well, Gonzo realized it.
Yes, Piggy can't accept it. But that if she did accept it, then she wouldn't karate chop him all the time. So it wouldn't work out for them no matter what. Complicated relationship. Next up on April 18th, 1977 is Avery Schreiber, who is a comedian and the comedy partner of the current, at the time, Muppet Show head writer, Jack Burns, who will not be the head writer for very much longer, right? He's not season 2 head writer?
Nope. After this batch of episodes, we are done with Jack Burns.
Backstage, Piggy, Scooter, and Avery collude to trick Kermit into thinking that Avery and Piggy are an item, which will hopefully drive Kermit into a jealous rage and to finally admit his love for Piggy, which pretty much works out until the very end when Scooter has blown the conspiracy and then Piggy kicks his ass in return. Standout moments here include the Muppet Labs Gorilla Detector skit, which we can talk about later. It's just like, I used to watch this skit as a kid a lot, and I loved it. A sketch where Avery is a night guard in a museum, and Fozzie is a living painting who keeps stealing his lunch. And a really cute Fozzie stand-up routine in which Avery comes out to try to defend Fozzie, but then accidentally upstages him with the old banana in the ear routine. Finally, on April 25th, 1977, the last episode of Season 1 is shown in New York, but it's actually the first episode that they ever produced, starring actor and dancer Juliet Prowse. Backstage, Scooter manipulates Kermit into letting him and his uncle's dog, Muppy, perform Simon Smith and his dancing dog, which Kermit does not want to do because he thinks it's going to be too sappy, but he caves eventually because, of course, Scooter's uncle owns the theater, so he's nothing he can do there. Muppy proves to be a prima donna and has like a increasingly outrageous list of demands to take the stage. Eventually, he refuses to take the stage completely when it's their turn to go up. So Scooter has to perform the song with Fozzie instead, which raises a few questions that we can also talk about later, but is very cute. Standout moments here include a fun fourth wall breaking performance of Phenomena, Kermit drinking some milk, Juliet's dance with some green pipe cleaner kind of gazelles, and then the Simon Smith and his Dancing Bear act, which is really cute and is another Jim's funeral song, so I got kind of choked up when they were doing it. And that was it for the Muppet Show. But we also watched a clip from Dinah Shore's Dinah! Where Frank, Jim, Ethel Merman, and Paul Williams were all guests. Paul and Ethel reveal that everyone who is a guest on the Muppet Show gets a silver Kermit pendant, and they both happen to be wearing theirs, which was kind of fun, but also one of them says, "Oh, we're in a cult." And it was kind of like, yeah, that is a little weird.
Yeah, Paul Williams says, "We worship at the same pond."
Yeah, yeah. Then Ethel, Kermit, and Fozzie sing a little song about being best friends that I'm sure is a song like a vaudeville song or something. I can't remember what song it was anymore, but that was also very cute. Then we watched a clip from the Boston morning show Good Day, in which Cookie Monster sings the Mumbles song with Clark Terry, who is a renowned jazz trumpeter. Finally, we watched a video that the British crew of the Muppet Show made after production of Season 1 wrapped and all the American people went back to America. The crew does little skits on the Muppet Show sets, and they poke fun at and express their love for various Muppet performers. Like, they make fun of Jim for being indecisive, they make fun of David Laser for being cheap, and they make fun of Frank Oz for, I think, like, stealing televisions? I wasn't really sure what they were going for there.
Yeah, there was like a theft joke, but it was also that he was trying to get them to do like 40 takes of something. So it was like the joke was he was a perfectionist and also stealing monitors. I couldn't really understand.
Yeah, I would like to know if he really stole a bunch of stuff from the set. But anyway, it's extremely sweet, and they're all kind of like trying to act like Muppets. So they're like flailing their arms around a lot and like bopping around. It's fun because it's just like, I don't know, they're like big Muppet fans.
It's very clear that they loved working with the Muppets, and they're hoping they come back to do a season 2, and they just like, it also has like an energy of something that I feel like me and my friends would have made in high school if we were like, let's make a Muppet Show video of us being the Muppets. Yeah,
except they're like highly trained professionals, so it looks like an episode of the Muppet Show, except their performances are all awful.
Right, because these are like camera people and wardrobe people and not performers.
Yeah,
so...
some of them are like 70-year-old British people who are trying their best.
Yeah, the woman who was supposed to be Hilda in this is...
She gets the longest joke of the whole thing.
And it's not a bad joke. It's just so weirdly performed that it like loses all context and all humor by the time she gets through it.
Yeah, it takes so long for her to perform it. But yeah, this would have been the saddest video in human history if they had been like, oh, we'll make season 2 in America.
Oh, yeah.
It would be so sad.
I didn't even think about that. Oh.
But instead, they do go back, I think, to that same place.
Yes, they make all 5 seasons there.
Phew. And that was it. I didn't write anything else down because I thought we'd probably end up talking about like season 1 a lot. So we'll probably run long as we have been doing.
Yeah, we're trying to cram a lot into these episodes, and Yep, it's taken a long time to cram in there. But before we get into talking about the Muppet Show this week, I wanted to mention a few things the Muppets were doing in early to mid-1977 that we didn't get to watch, unfortunately. In March of 1977, they did a special called Sesame Street at Night, with a question mark, because a weird punctuation in titles is the theme of the week. But they did a primetime special that aired in March to celebrate Sesame Street's 1,000th episode.
Whoa.
Yeah.
See, that's why we're not watching Sesame Street.
Yeah, at this point, we would have already covered 1,000 episodes.
That's fucked up. It hasn't even been on that long.
No, not even 10 years. But that special was hosted by Gene Shalit from The Today Show, who has already interacted with the Muppets. I don't think we've been able to see him interact with the Muppets.
They made fun of him in that one pilot.
Yeah, we got to see them dress up as him. And that apparently is kind of what they keep doing with him on The Today Show. Anytime they go on, they have like a Gene Shalit Muppet, or Bert dresses up like Gene Shalit, or all these things.
He's an extremely silly-looking fellow.
He's a Muppet human, so I feel like it makes sense that like he would interact with them a lot. And then also in March of 1977, they start to shoot Emmett Otter in Toronto. They go up to Canada to shoot Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas in mid-March of 1977. And at least according to like Jim's journal and Jim's Red Book, by mid-April 1977, there was a note in there that said, finish Emmett Otter final mix. So apparently that's like a month that it only took to make the entirety of Emmett Otter from like beginning of shooting to finishing editing. And that could just be like maybe the music final mix. It didn't specify what the final mix was, but to me, final mix says your movie is done. So who knows? I do feel like that movie has some editing issues, perhaps. So maybe they rushed it. It's also, yeah, it's a bit rough around the edges. In August of 1977, Jim Henson makes a deal with Brian Froud to make a great film, is what it says in his notes. That basically...
What?
Yeah. But that's important because Brian Froud is the main illustrator/designer who goes on to design The Dark Crystal.
Oh.
So it would take like 5 years.
Film?
Yeah.
That's the great film they're talking about. That's interesting.
So in like 1977, they're already starting to work on ideas for The Dark Crystal in its like rawest form. But eventually it would work out. And then in August and September of 1977, they appear on The Today Show twice. Both times, hanging out with Gene Shalit again. And Kermit, Piggy, and Fozzie appear.
Are they reviewing movies with them or anything? Do you know? What?
I don't think so. I think they're just there to like hang out and talk about the Muppet Show and stay relevant.
Okay. Yeah, I guess he was like their entertainment reporter. So
right.
That makes sense.
And then in September 1977, the Good Morning America does a segment about the Muppet Show, even going behind the scenes, like on set of the Muppet Show.
Oh, that would have been cool.
And again, a lot happened in 1977. Also happening in September 1977 were the Emmy Awards, where Rita Moreno won her Outstanding Continuing or Single Performance by a Supporting Actress in Variety or Music Emmy. It's also worth noting that The Muppet Show was nominated for Outstanding Comedy, Variety, or Music Series and Outstanding Writing in a Comedy, Variety, or Music Series.
What did it lose to?
So they lost the Best Series to Van Dyke and Company, which presumably is a Dick Van Dyke show that I've never heard of.
It doesn't even have its own Wikipedia link, so there's no way to know what it is.
And they lost the Writing Emmy to Saturday Night Live.
Ah, ouch.
Their old friend stabbing them in the back. And the last two things that we could not watch that happened in September of 1977, Big Bird and Oscar were back on Hollywood Squares for a little bit.
And
I
still have to watch that.
The original one, the old one we watched?
Yeah. Sorry.
Wow. Sam the Slacker here on commitment.
Oh.
The Muppets also appeared on The Tonight Show in September of 1977. This was to promote season 2, which was just about to start in mid-September 1977. So they previewed Kermit's tap dancing number, which is Happy Feet, which would be part of the Madeline Kahn episode in season 2. And Link Hogthrob showed up, like his first appearance. And also Jim Henson was just like interviewed like he normally would be with Johnny Carson. But unfortunately, this is one of those that we can't track down.
Can I ask you, how do people know this stuff exists? Is it just like in old TV guides and stuff like that? Or people like remember it happening?
I'm assuming there's a lot of old TV guides for some of this. And then I also think that there is notes of what happened, but maybe just not tapes that we can find. And some of this stuff I know has been out there at some point because there are screenshots from a lot of these things on Muppet Wiki. So either Muppet Wiki just has access to them and they're keeping it to themselves because they don't want like copyright strikes.
Yeah.
or they've been uploaded to YouTube at some point and then taken down because of copyright, which I think is probably more the case. Because it's always surprising to me when you find some of these things that are uploaded like 2 months ago and they've only been on YouTube 2 months and you're like, I guess we got to watch this really fast because it's going to go away.
Yeah.
Somebody, I won't mention names, in our Twitter mentions actually was mentioning to us that there is potential for some piracy that could happen to our benefit. Because apparently there is a library that has a copy of Sesame Street Goes to Prison.
Oh.
And the person on Twitter was encouraging followers of Commitment to maybe go borrow that and upload it somewhere. But
any police, stop listening right now. Okay. Continue.
So yeah, if anyone wants to do that, I guess. I won't say you should, but I will say that if you happen to do that and you happen to tweet us a link or email us a link,
We won't look at it.
No.
We'll report you to the police.
One small thing that also happened, sort of has bigger consequences in the overall, entertainment universe, is that also
human history, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah. That also happened during this time. Star Wars came out. The first Star Wars movie came out during this time. So, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. That's got some Muppet adjacent type of characters that weren't worked on at all by Jim Henson, right? He didn't make
definitely
any of
not in the
those
first
heads.
movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, we get Yoda in the second one, but
yeah,
that's still a little
But Jim
ways
was
away.
sitting in the audience and he thought, I have an idea for a funny little green man who will make this movie really shine.
That's not at all true of how it happened, but that's like how they probably do it in like a Jim Henson biopic.
Yeah, he calls up George and says, George, do I have a little green man for you?
You mean Kermit? No, a wrinkly Kermit. So moving on to the actual Muppet Show episodes this week, starting off with Kaye Ballard, who I also had no idea who this woman was. Still don't really, even after looking into her.
It sounds mean to say, but I would really like to know how she ended up on the Muppet Show. I thought for sure my mom would be like, oh yeah, she was doing a run on this show at this point or something. Like this TV show, but my mom was just like, I don't know who that is. So,
yeah, it seems like she was mostly famous for being in a bunch of comedies and also appearing on Broadway in multiple plays. So I think, again, just one of those people who was famous for being famous and showed up on a lot of talk shows and variety shows of the era.
And maybe almost surprises me more that I don't know who she is because she's like really funny and like personable. And she seems like somebody who's very famous, like extremely famous. But then she's just somebody who's famous with the not capital F.
Yeah, she's got some Liza Minnelli energy coming off of her that I feel like I watch Liza Minnelli and I'm like, oh yeah, I understand why you're famous. And it's sort of the same thing with Kaye Ballard where I'm like, I see why you're famous. I just don't know why you're famous. It's worth noting that Fozzie only appears in this episode for his opening joke and then is nowhere else in this entire episode.
And they get rid of the opening joke in the next season. And I think that's a big mistake. I think the opening joke is like a really great part of the episode, and I'm gonna be sad to see it not there anymore. Like the opening joke and then Kermit singing his little line. I'm really fond of that part.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch, and I think like having an automatic Fozzie moment every episode at the beginning is great, and it's a shame it goes away, but we get a much more elaborate opening in the future seasons.
It looks better, but I miss Fozzie.
Speaking of missing. Our old friends, the Country Trio, are back to perform a song called In the Summertime. And this was my least favorite Country Trio thing we've seen so far.
Yep. I couldn't, there's something about this that I just literally couldn't pay attention to it.
But then we get the extremely strong backstage story that you mentioned earlier where Floyd and the band hate the theme song, which is a very, very good bit. And there's so many good moments that come out of this running gag backstage plot where early on when Floyd is complaining about the theme song being terrible, he starts to sing it in a derisive way. He's like, and Kermit lights up and looks into the camera of look, this song's so good.
Yeah. He loves it so much.
Yeah, I just love Kermit's joy when Floyd, even when he's making fun of it, is singing the theme song.
It's funny that sometimes it feels like, and I'm sure this is on purpose, that Kermit's history as having been around in show business since the 50s comes out. and where he is like an old-timey showbiz guy working with a bunch of like kids who don't really always understand what he's going for and have different tastes than him. I also love that they bring Nigel in on this one and that he's the one who wrote the theme song.
Yeah, even though Nigel in this, not performed by Jim Henson like he was in the past, but in this is performed by John Lovelady. And I did like that concept, though, that like Nigel wrote the original theme song. Yeah,
just like the acknowledging that they perform the theme song every episode and that like somebody wrote it. Just makes everything feel so much more.
Yeah, building
like,
up the
real
world.
And also slapped together. And I love that the Muppets hate the thing that they are in, like, which is kind of a running theme. Like, they're always disgusted by the jokes and they seem to hate every moment of everything that they do for the most part.
Well, it also makes sense, like, the same way how, like, Kermit is this old-timey entertainer. Rolf is apparently the only one who doesn't mind the theme song out of the band, out of the orchestra, because he's the only one who sticks around to play the theme song.
Yeah, he's not like those kids. He just does his job. He does what he's supposed to do. I also don't know how to describe it in an audio medium, but the way that Floyd walks in this episode is amazing.
He walks like that every now and then. He gets this, like, weird strut that I don't know how his legs would be doing that walk if he was an actual like walking around puppet.
Yeah.
But he does have this weird leaning back. I don't know how to describe that motion.
I'd say other than that, though, like not a particularly strong episode.
No, it's kind of in the same boat. I think the Thog number, outside of just sweet, naive Thog being back, is also not a great number. Like, the song isn't that memorable. The dancing is kind of interesting to see, like, Thog and Kaye do similar, like, synchronized dancing. But
it's the same thing we've seen him do in all of these acts where he's, like, cute but clumsy.
Right.
And singing about love.
Yeah. And I think the Muppet Newsflash is sort of the same kind of joke we've been seeing, where they just have the guest of that week pop up on the screen and kind of do a nothing kind of joke. This one's not that interesting.
Jumping ahead a little bit to the cast, like the crew video that they made for them, I thought the crew did Muppet Newsflash segments better than the Muppets did. I kind of liked that there were a bunch of them interspersed into it, and I just thought they were like shorter, so it was a little funnier.
Yeah, I think at this point in the Muppet Show, at the point we're at, the Muppet Newsflash sort of feels like a thing that it's almost like they feel stuck in doing it. Like, it's like somebody assigned it to them. Like, you have to do these Muppet Newsflashes, and they don't really enjoy doing them.
And it has to involve the guests somehow, for the most part.
Yeah.
Which, those are the weaker ones when it has to involve the guests, I think. This one, at the dance, had a joke that made me laugh, though.
Ooh, which one?
When Janice is like, you can find records of my family in the 17th century. And then Zoot says, you can find records of my family in the 19th precinct.
Yeah.
I made a note that made me laugh out loud.
I think there's a number of at the dance jokes throughout this batch of episodes that we watched that were actually pretty decent.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they're getting the hang of at the dance just in time for it to not really be a thing anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, the UK spot in this episode is Pa from the Gogolala Jubilee Jug Band singing Life Gets Tedious, Don't It? And Rover Joe is there hanging out. And again, this is one that sort of feeds into that episode sort of being a meh kind of thing, because the joke's not great, the song's not great, but the set is sort of impressive because of the way it falls apart.
The thing falling down is cool, I guess, but it's this, you know what, Matt? This skit gets tedious, don't it?
Oh,
how about that?
Take that, Pa.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I thought that was like the practical, like the special effects of it were pretty interesting. Especially for something they knew wasn't going to air in the U.S. I feel like they usually do Rolf ones because it like isn't expensive to put Rolf on a piano. But
Yeah, they just have a puppet sing at a piano, and they're like, that didn't cost anything. It was easy to film, but this is an entire set falling down.
Yeah. Then there's the talk spot, which I talked about a little bit earlier, but I didn't mention that at one point Animal's neck rips open. Did you notice that?
Yeah, you saw some fluff coming out of there.
Yeah, it was kind of freaky.
Yeah, it was one of those things that I was surprised stayed in the final cut, or like they didn't try to do another take. Maybe just nobody noticed on the day. But there was definitely a moment when he's thrashing around where you see a big old white chunk of fluff come out of his neck.
Yeah, a big seam rips open right on his neck.
Yeah, there's a haircut sketch where a barber is like trimming a Muppet down to essentially nothing, and then sneezes and he flies away. That kind of was fine.
Okay, this one disturbed me upset me.
Oh.
Because at the beginning of it, Statler and Waldorf are like So it's Statler and Waldorf are making comments throughout this, like they knew this wasn't a very good sketch and they had to pad it out with something. At the beginning of it, one of them says, "This is a running gag, huh?" And this is the second time they've used running gag incorrectly in the season 1 of the Muppet Show, because there's nothing about this that is a running gag.
No, I also put that in my notes. I put Waldorf says it's a running gag, but is it? Because
it would have been funny. It would have been, first of all, made the skit better, and it would have been accurate if this barber had appeared throughout the whole episode, cutting different hair and different haircutting jokes.
Yeah, I think that is the way to do it. I think you have different hairy Muppets coming in and with different results of like this one disappearing. Maybe underneath there's a really attractive Muppet underneath a bunch of hair, and then another one is
Sexy
Kermit.
Lady Muppet. Maybe.
Yeah. Stick a bunch of hair on Sexy Lady Muppet and boom, we got a sketch.
Yeah. But yeah, instead it's just not very good and weird. And I always think if I'm in the audience watching the Muppet Show and I see this sketch come on, what's my reaction going to be? I'll probably boo, because this one wasn't no good.
Yeah, and I feel like they have to, like you mentioned, not only add Statler and Waldorf in to pad it out to make it better, but also to obviously cover the transitions throughout the haircut. And so I feel like it's one of those things where the initial idea was interesting to like have this barber cut away at this puppet, but because they couldn't think of how to technically do that, like all in one sketch, they had to figure out how to cover it up. And the way they cover it up is with Statler and Waldorf, and those things just sort of, I think, it breaks even in a bad way where I just like feel like very neutral about this sketch.
Then there's another backstage thing here, and one thing that I also really liked and like related to with Floyd was that when Kermit's like, "Well, you're free to write your own version of the theme," and then Floyd keeps saying like, "You're not gonna like it. I'm horrible. I don't even like my music, and no one understands it." And
he says, "If I wasn't sure I was a genius, I would hate the trash I write."
Yeah, and then right before they're about to play the song, which is called "Fugue for a Frog," Floyd again says, "You are going to hate this," which is like, as an artist who is very self-loathing myself, I understand that compulsion to be like, this is not going to be good. Please do not be excited for this at all.
Yeah, I've edited videos like that where I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to like this, but I love it.
Oh, well, I've made things where I'm like, I don't think anyone's going to like this, and I hate it. So, but it's done now, so here we go. But yeah, Vindiface is in this in its proper form, not as a therapist, and works much better.
Yes, I agree. That like the sketch still doesn't completely work for me. I don't love Vindiface and hope I'm glad Vindiface isn't around forever.
One problem with it, yeah.
Yeah. But this is the reason I'm guessing Vindiface was invented, was for this sketch to give someone an actual like facelift. And the joke at the end is that they give somebody else the original bad face from the first Muppet.
Yeah. So a lady walks up with a horrible face, gets it taken off, cute face. Then a lady walks up with a cute face, gets taken off, horrible face.
Yep.
But it takes like 3 minutes or something. You see all the pieces of the face come off, but they're facing away from the camera, so you can't see shit.
Yeah, no, I think it's Vindiface is a failure in every way.
Especially when, okay, here I go, I'm punching it up again. They could have had the camera be pointed at the Muppet's face and then the hands be like you're from the perspective of Vindiface. Then you could have seen it popping all the pieces off. Pff, boom, solved it.
Boom, better.
Jim from the past, listen, it's not too late to fix this.
Call us. And then we get the final musical number from Kaye Ballard that feels like a worse version of the Phyllis Diller joke.
Yeah, it's the same thing, except Kaye Ballard can. So in the Phyllis Diller one, she played the saxophone horribly, but Kaye Ballard can play a million instruments very well.
Yeah, and the joke is basically that she's fighting with Piggy as to like who is the star here.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just, this episode as a whole and that sketch in particular just don't click. And I don't
That one made me laugh a lot.
Hmm.
I liked when Piggy came out with the kazoo.
Okay.
And I was watching it with Rachel, who plays instruments, and she was like, "Oh, I think Kaye Ballard can actually play all this stuff. Her finger movements were correct the whole time." So that was impressive, and I liked when she put Piggy in the big tuba at the end. So I don't know. I thought this one was pretty fun.
Yeah, and that episode ends with the what we already commented on, but is great, is that Rolf plays the theme song all by himself.
And that was like a little bit of extra effort that if they hadn't done, this episode would have been like, what the fuck? Why are they playing the ending theme song? this doesn't make any sense. But since they went that extra mile and gave us a little Rolf moment, that was nice.
It's like when the Hat Rack gets the writing credit in the Peter Ustinov episode, where it's this joke that you don't necessarily have expectations for it to pay off the way it does, but the fact that they give a writing credit to the Hat Rack in the end credits of the show is like the ultimate like button on that joke. And I feel like this was exactly the same way, where you have your band refusing to play the theme song, but you still need to have a theme song. What are you going to do? It doesn't make sense that they then like obviously are there for every other episode, but
yeah, behind the scenes they renegotiate their contract, I suppose.
Floyd gets paid a lot more these days.
You dangle some money in front of Dr. Teeth and he's going to sign them all up to do anything you want.
It's on to the Mummenschanz / Mummenschanz. I don't know. Kermit says it multiple ways throughout the episode.
Kermit says it both ways. Yeah, he's hedging for sure.
This was the last episode filmed in season 1, which I feel like Jim was just like, I'm going to sneak this one in there. Maybe nobody will notice. There's apparently a DVD called The Story of Mummenschanz, and somebody from Mummenschanz recalls that originally a performer named Gina Lollobrigida, who I don't know who that is, was planned as a guest star for season 1, but she canceled, and Jim Henson suggested Mummenschanz, whose performance he had seen in Geneva. So it seems like they were like a last-minute replacement.
That makes sense.
Yes.
They are pasted into the episode awkwardly.
Well, I also don't know how you do anything else with them. Like, you can't really have backstage discussions with the Mummenschanz because they don't speak.
I think you could... So I've been thinking about the same thing. I think you could do an episode where all the skits were silent, and that would be like a fun way to tie them in. Or have them be part of the backstage thing, doing something kind of similar like they did to the Talk Spot. Or have all the Muppets be like freaked out by them or something like that. Like seeing Gonzo interact with them would have been cool because they're like similar because they make stuff that maybe
you
not
fixed it
everybody
again,
likes
Sam.
that much.
That's like you take your weird performance artist, Muppet, Gonzo, and have him interact with the very weird performance artist of Mummenschanz.
Yeah, if he's going to want advice from anyone, like he's been getting all the other episodes, he'll want it from the at least successful-ish, as far as I can tell, mime group.
They're still going. They're still performing today, so must be at least a little successful. Mummenschanz would actually go on to appear in Sesame Street as well. They do a couple of inserts for Sesame Street. And also apparently make a brief appearance in Muppet Babies at some point.
As animated characters?
No, I think they're on a TV.
Oh, like when they open one of those doors or something, and behind them there is. Yes.
Yeah, apparently Gonzo is like showing, he opens a door of like bad things that can happen, and like Mummenschanz are on there for some reason.
Watching Mummenschanz is one of the bad things that can happen to you.
But yeah, this episode starts off with one of my favorite Muppet songs of all time, which is Mr. Bassman.
Yeah.
And I think this is the batch where Scooter is really starting to work his way into my heart, because he gets a couple of performances in this batch, and they're both fantastic.
Yeah, Scooter performing, he's so earnest, and like, there's kind of like a weird arc where you do feel like he earned his way onto the show, basically.
And yeah, we have the what I think is a pretty interesting backstage story. To me, this episode feels similar to the Kaye Ballard one, where the backstage story is pretty strong, pretty consistent, and then the guest spots for me kind of fall a little flat. But the Gonzo loving Miss Piggy, although it's not like really a thing that's followed up on much throughout the years.
He does call her a cute pig in the Muppet movie.
That's true. But I think this one is clearly the most in love with Piggy that we've ever seen Gonzo. And yeah, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting way to go with it. And I think it leads to some interesting moments where we have Kermit tricking Miss Piggy into going on a date with Gonzo.
And she does get to karate chop a lot of people in this one, which I enjoy. I felt like it was a little mean. I think that sometimes they're a little mean to Gonzo in the first season. And he doesn't ever get any, like, he doesn't get victories ever.
Right, like they sort of see it as an okay thing that they can mess with Gonzo.
It makes me worried about him. But I know he's fine later because he's the breakout star and he has many friends. But he had a tough first season.
That's why they had to get rid of his sad eyes, so people just didn't like feel bad for him all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, I like this backstage plot. It was not my favorite one, but I do like the ending when she double karate chops both Kermit and Gonzo.
Yeah, and there's some really good moments in that section at the end where Gonzo's sort of like leering over Miss Piggy's shoulder, and the closer he gets, she starts freaking out and be like, "Don't touch me!" Yeah, you're breathing on me. And just some very solid Frank Oz, Miss Piggy moments in that last segment.
Totally. This Mummenschanz, the first one they do with the paper on their faces, though, with different expressions, I did not understand what they were going for.
Yeah, so they've got like 3 notepads essentially on their face, 2 where the eyes are, 1 where the mouth is, and they sort of like keep changing expressions and flirting with each other, I think.
Yeah.
But it feels like clever at first. Like you sort of are like, oh, okay, I understand what's going on here. And there's some cute little moments with some sideways glances popping up on their notepad faces. But then it goes on for way too long. And I also completely lost the thread on what the story was supposed to be here.
Yeah, there start to be some expressions that are incomprehensible to me, at least.
Yeah, and they start like drawing on their own faces in ways that like don't like make any sense.
Yeah, because you can't. Yeah. There's one part, he like draws a mustache on himself or something, but it looks like he's maybe on the wrong page and doesn't realize it.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like there was some miscommunication there as far as like what was supposed to happen next, and they just kept powering through it instead of like going back and trying it again.
Yeah, that was a rough one for me.
But then we get the library sketch that we saw for some reason in the Muppet Meeting films, where they perform the Blue Danube. Yeah, not Danube. Clearly a classical music fan over here. And this reminded me that the Muppets have tried this thing a few times, and I feel like they fail every time, where they try to do sort of like an a cappella music thing. And it never sounds like what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a Marvin Suggs one where they were doing this with the Muppet phones, and now this one, and I think there's 1 or 2 other examples, but they like are trying to work towards some sort of like classic song that everyone should know, but it doesn't sound like it at all.
No,
and in this one,
have to start playing the song at the end of this one.
Right, they bring in the actual song. You're like, I get it now, but like they just don't nail it, and I don't. It's not. I hope they don't do a lot of these things over the years.
Well, all right, and that's that.
Which kind of leads into the exact way that Kermit introduces Mummenschanz for their second performance. Is he keeps saying, like, oh yeah, Mummenschanz does some weird things that go like this. And then they do a weird thing, and he says, how about this one? I guess, how did you feel about this Mummenschanz?
I liked the stuff they were doing, but I hated those Kermit interstitials.
Oh.
They needed to find a way to do it differently, I think. What did you think?
I didn't mind them just because I don't know how they do it without him introducing that, because it is just like they're shaped like weird animals and they crawl around for 2 seconds. Like there's not like a bit there's not a story. It's just look at how they look weird.
Yeah, they should have found a way to put a Muppet in this stuff, but I wonder if they were, like you said, working up against a time constraint, or maybe Mummenschanz didn't want Muppets in it or something. It just makes it feel like you're watching, like Kermit's watching them on TV or something, like they're not even there.
Yeah, like if you remove the talk spot from this, we don't have Mummenschanz really interacting with any Muppets.
What do you think about the horny eel?
There's a UK spot in this where an eel sings, "When I'm not near the fish I love." And yeah, it's kind of weird. Like I put not my favorite UK spot in my notes because I think the puppetry is interesting because they're doing like a chroma key, blue screen, green screen kind of thing with this puppet in front of some real fish footage. But I don't love the song, and again, even though the UK spots are only like 2 minutes long, sometimes they feel way too long.
This was definitely one of those. British people love eels though, so.
Is that true?
Yeah, they eat eels.
Oh, but maybe they hate them.
Oh, that's why they're trying to eat all of them.
Yeah.
So they're gone.
Trying to rid the earth of eels by eating all of them.
Just the intergenerational eel war. Try to eat as many eels as you can. Could be. Yeah, I didn't like this either, but I thought it was funny that it was about having sex with fish.
Yeah, it's like, again, one of those where you take the metaphor and remove metaphor and make it literal, and you got them up.
Well, the original song is called "When I'm Not Near the Girl I Love." They just rewrote it to be about fish.
Okay. I thought it was a metaphor song again.
No.
Okay.
It is a little weird that I don't know why they had the idea to write it about fish.
That is very odd because, I'm looking at it now and it says the revised lyrics include a series of fish puns, replacing "For Sharon I'm Karen, but Susan I'm choosing" with "For herring I'm caring, for tuna I swoona."
That's very funny.
I mean, yeah, the lyrics, now that I know it was rewritten, it makes it better to me.
Yeah.
Whereas I thought this was just like one of those songs that somebody in the 50s or 60s wrote as like a weird fish love song that didn't make any sense. But
So in that one episode, I mentioned that there's a part where Kermit, there's not a fish act happening, and then it goes backstage and a fish jumps in behind Kermit. And I kept waiting for that fish to show up, but he's not in this one. It's different than this fish. So I don't know what the hell's going on there.
You mentioned the talk spot already, but my only notes, pretty much just agreeing with what you said earlier, is that this is sort of the standout Mummenschanz moment in the episode because we get them interacting with Kermit, and they also, have some fun reactions and get to do...
The gag works really well, the thing that they're doing, yeah.
It's short, it's sweet, it's clever, and they don't overstay their welcome.
And it's fun to see Kermit think that somebody else is weird instead of the guest being like, you guys are weird. And that would have been that would have been, like I said earlier, fun to draw out through the episode where it's like, finally, we got somebody weirder than us.
This is the only Wayne and Wanda I truly loved.
Yeah, this one was really good.
They're singing Paper Moon, and it nothing to do with Wayne and Wanda, really, that make this sketch funny, but there's a moon hanging in the sky that falls so fast and so sudden onto Wayne, and just he pierces through it. And just the way that moon falls so quickly, and the moment it hits, the timing is so perfect that it like actually got a genuine chuckle out of me.
Yeah, and you know it's coming, but then the way it comes is different than you expect it to. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's exactly what it was. Is the moon is going to fall, or something's going to happen with the moon. They're singing about the moon. It's Wayne and Wanda. It's predictable, but it falls again just so quickly and just murders him that the joke lands really well.
I think the thing I like about Wayne and Wanda that I'm realizing is that it gives Sam a minute to be funny. Which, like in this one, he reads that Leonard Bernstein review about how mediocre they are, and then he walks away like, what? And that's what I like his little moment at the beginning where he's like trying to be straight faced when he knows everything's gonna go horribly wrong. I think I'll miss that part of it, but yeah, Wayne and Wanda. They've peaked here, and this is all we need.
Hopefully, we'll have a new segment for Sam to be included in more regularly.
Yeah, maybe he just shows up in the backstage more often or something, but I don't know what he's gonna do if they're not there.
As I mentioned earlier, in not this episode but a previous episode, season 1 is the season of the Muppet Show that I have seen the most episodes from. And then sort of like random episodes from there on out. So I don't actually know a lot of the through lines that continue to happen with the rest of the Muppet Show. We get another Vendaface sketch, which is not as good as the last one, but you get to see Statler make a weird face, which I feel like happens a lot in this batch. We get a lot of like Statler and Waldorf hitting each other. And Statler just gets punched in the face by Vendaface and crinkles up his face into.
But it is funny, like David Laser got mad at them for building Vendaface. It is funny that they built such a very specific prop that they had one very specific joke for, and then they literally did like the only other joke you can do with this prop. What else are you gonna do besides those two things, and then the other one which doesn't work at all?
Yeah, I don't know if like maybe somebody thought it was going to be a good enough joke that they could keep doing that sort of joke over and over, and they were like, "We'll build it for one, but I'm sure we'll think of something to use it for."
Yeah.
And apparently not. They just were like, I don't know, punch somebody, and I don't know. We're out of ideas.
Oops, sorry, David. But then what did you think of the clay face thing? The Mummenschanz clay face?
Yeah, we get another Mummenschanz thing where they both have clay on their face. There's two people there. One is like very refined, like sleek modeling clay, like looks sort of like what's his face? Guy Fawkes
mask.
Yeah. And then the other one is more clumsy and bulky and sloppy looking, and is clearly jealous of the more handsome Clayface, and so is trying to keep up. But at the end, they sort of have this little fight where they are pushing each other's faces and mashing each other's faces, and then they eventually fall together, so their faces get stuck to each other in this very weird, gross moment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I liked this. Ignoring the talk spot, if we're looking at just the three Mummenschanz things, which is sort of like the random animal puppets, the notebook faces, and the clay faces, I think the clay face is my favorite of those three.
Yeah. This one's good. It goes on a little long, maybe, but it's a fun concept. And unlike the paper face one, when they're manipulating their own faces, you can tell what they're trying to do. And they do some really cool stuff, I think.
And we end the episode with them unmasked and speaking,
Yeah.
which I felt like was weird and unnecessary and almost felt like a weird violation of their whole thing.
I don't know. I suppose they wouldn't have done it if they didn't want to do it.
No. And I feel like obviously they've appeared maskless on other things, but it sort of felt to me like they were treating Mummenschanz like a Blue Man Group or a Daft Punk kind of thing where you don't get to know them. You don't get to see them. You don't get to see their faces or their personality come out. So to bring them out at the end already unmasked and then have them speak, I'm just like, I don't know these people. Who are these people?
That's true. And they do say many, many times that they don't speak and that you never get to see their faces. So it is a little, you're right, it is a little weird.
Yeah. I did like that at the beginning of the episode, Kermit refers to them as a distant cousin of the Muppets.
Yeah, I like that too. I thought that was sweet.
But going from an episode that I thought I was going to love more than I did to an episode that I thought I was going to hate more than I did, it's the Avery Schreiber episode from April 18th, 1977.
I had the exact same reaction. Yeah.
And that's mostly based for me, at least, on the fact that the only time we have seen Avery Schreiber was back when we watched Our Place, when him and old Jack Burns were doing a comedy routine, and we hated Our Place, so I was not looking forward to him. But apparently, we both liked this episode.
This was one that I had on a VHS that my parents had recorded. It was the first episode on this VHS of 3 Muppet Show episodes, so I've seen this one so many times. And there's one after this one, and I cannot remember what it was, on the VHS that I loved, and I didn't really like this one that much as a child. So I remember this episode to me has this is boring. This is the boring Avery Schreiber episode that I don't like. So I was not looking forward to it, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, same. I fully expected to dislike this episode because I did not like Avery Schreiber in anything else I saw him in. But there are still some moments in this that I didn't love, specifically related to him. But I think overall this is a great episode. And I think I was afraid he was going to be a little bit more of a Peter Ustinov, which I did not love. You liked, but I did not like Peter Ustinov. And I was a little afraid he was going to be doing his own comedy at the expense of the Muppets rather than playing well with the Muppets, whereas that's the opposite of what happened. He folded in perfectly into this little troupe.
Yeah, he makes fun of himself quite a bit more than he makes fun of any Muppet stuff. And I like that they reference so much that Jack Burns works for the Muppet Show, so he just has a little digs at him throughout the whole thing.
Yeah,
I thought that was fun.
I also found while researching Avery Schreiber that Jack Burns and Avery Schreiber would go on to be voices on Animaniacs.
Oh.
They were Sid the Squid and the Bison, whoever the Bison was, who are enemies of Slappy Squirrel. And so they let them be a comedy duo on Animaniacs as well, which I'm sure was a big deal for the people who were making Animaniacs to bring in Jack Burns and Avery Schreiber to be these voices.
But not something that any child would ever care or know, or even people watching who knew who Jack Burns and Avery Schreiber were probably didn't know that it was them. Where this is probably similar to this, where people don't care that Jack Burns is writing the Muppet Show, I would assume. So it's just a joke for for those two, and then us are the only people who will ever get really appreciate those jokes, I feel like.
Yeah, because it's interesting because I know Jack Burns was known at the time. People knew who Jack Burns was because of his comedy, but I don't know how well known it was that oh my God, Jack Burns is writing the Muppet Show? That's amazing.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess it could be if who's the guy who is Pumbaa in the new Lion King movie?
Seth Rogen?
Yeah.
That's your reference point for Seth Rogen?
That was the fastest one I could think to say. Okay, leave me alone. I guess it would be if it was, maybe it would be Seth Rogen's writing the new Muppet Show. Maybe.
Which I mean was kind of the deal when Jason Segel took over.
Yeah.
And then they were also developing a Disney Plus show at one point with Josh Gad working executive producing. And I think that's sort of how these stories have all been released is Jason Segel's making a Muppets thing. Josh Gad is making a Muppets thing.
Right.
And so maybe back then it was holy cow, they got Jack Burns?
Jack Burns is making a Muppet thing. Yeah.
And Jack Burns won't go away from the Muppets. He will stop being the head writer on the Muppet Show, but he's going to co-write the Muppet movie with Jerry Jewell. And then he will also go on to appear in Puppet Man, which
I forgot about that.
Yeah, is a long ways away from now what we're talking about, but I'm very excited to talk about it because Puppet Man is a pilot for a TV show that's loosely based on Jim Henson as a person. It's this guy who is a children's TV puppet
It's like Mr.
performer.
Rogers plus Jim Henson. A little
Yes.
Bit,
And Jack Burns might play the main puppet man. I don't remember exactly.
I
I've
think
only
he is
skimmed
Puppet
through
Man,
it.
I believe. Yeah.
But I'm very excited to watch
like
Puppet
that.
Man eventually because I feel like it's going to be terrible.
That's what I think is interesting, and I think I've said this before, but it seems like Jack Burns just signed on so that they could get their show made, right? And then
I believe that's sort of like what
you
I
guys
have
can write
read
it
is
now.
that because he had clout in the TV world, it was easier to get a TV show made if they had this established TV writer in the room.
Yeah. But my interpretation of it seems like they didn't fire him, that he just was like, you guys got this. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's kind of the vibe I got too, is that they brought him on to just like give them that foot in the door, and
Yeah.
then everyone just sort of realized, you know what? Like, we got this. We don't need you,
Yeah.
Jack. You can go on and do your other things.
I did not like the Sir Avery of Macho thing.
Nope. That was what sort of like was the thing at the beginning where I was afraid that this episode was going to go exactly the way I was afraid it was going to go.
Uh-huh.
Where the first time we get to see Avery Schreiber in this episode, he feels like he's not committing to the bit. And also, I don't really understand what the bit is supposed to be.
No, the insults aren't insulty enough to make it make sense.
Well,
Like,
and the whole concept of this, we start off with reporter Kermit, who we've
Mm-hmm.
only previously seen on the Muppet Show, like with the Kuzbanians. So he's like on
Mm-hmm.
an alien planet reporting on this thing. But here, he's reporting on a gladiator match
Mhm,
between
mhm.
Sir Avery of Macho and the Monster of the Moors, which is Sweetums. And so there's a weird, like, what is the fiction here? Why do we have a news reporter reporting on this gladiator match? But then within that world, even then, you have Sir Avery of Macho coming in, and at points, it's clearly Avery Schreiber playing a role because he's talking about like he needs to call his agent, and I just didn't understand what the story was happening like within this sketch.
I think Kermit was there so he had somebody to talk to, I suppose, so he could set up the situation. But he could have had a squire or something, I guess. I think this is the skit that I didn't like as a child that made me not like this episode, is my guess.
That's fair. I don't like it as an adult, so I get it.
But I do love the gorilla detector. That image of the gorilla detector is seared into my brain. I picture that when I close my eyes.
Because it just looks like Donkey Kong.
That is I never made that connection, but yes, that is Donkey Kong.
It's Donkey Kong
I
before
don't
Donkey
know how
Kong.
I never thought of that. And you know what? That design of Donkey Kong is British. So it's entirely possible that somebody at Rare who drew that version of Donkey Kong was basing it on this.
I like that
Oh my
fiction.
gosh.
I like the idea that somebody designed Donkey Kong based on a Muppet Show sketch.
Just those shadowed eyes, though. That is Donkey Kong's eyes.
Well, and that mouth
Oh my
shape is
God.
also very specific to like 90s Donkey Kong.
We cracked it. I think we maybe cracked it.
I also think this is just one of those, again, a good Muppet sketch where they're setting things on fire, there's breaking things, they just like are going for it. And Bunsen Honeydew is so committed to the bit that this gorilla detector works, and that even though he is being eaten by a gorilla, because the gorilla detector is not going off,
That creature is not a gorilla.
it cannot be a gorilla.
Yeah.
There's no way my invention is failing.
I like when he says, like, how often have you woken up in the middle of the night while being killed by a gorilla?
I am excited to get Beaker next season
Yeah.
to sort of expand on these Muppet Labs sketches, but I haven't minded Bunsen on his own.
No, it's funny to see him get horribly maimed and mangled, though.
Yes, whereas like in the future, it will feel like he is the cause of other people's harm.
Well, I guess it's kind of like he hired Beaker because he was sick of getting hurt. So he's been there before. It makes him a little more sympathetic because you have to go through. He's like paying his dues. You have to be an assistant and get hurt a lot before you can hire your own assistant who gets hurt a lot for you. It's just a cycle of Muppet scientists.
I hope that in Beaker's first appearance, we get a fiction like that where Bunsen's just like, I am tired of this shit, so I hired a guy to blow up for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna electrocute this guy now. This security guard skit is another one that is just in my brain. Specifically when Fozzie gums that sandwich. That sandwich is like the platonic idea of a sandwich to me.
Yeah, we get a very good, I think it's very good, painting sketch here where Fozzie is hiding in the frame at a museum and pretending to be a painting on the wall, and Avery Schreiber is playing the museum security guard who is just trying to eat his lunch. And Fozzie keeps trying to steal his lunch, which is a sandwich and an apple. Avery eventually catches him and goes back there into the frame, and then Rolf shows up and they steal his lunch.
Yeah, and they're such a good duo. Avery and Fozzie look so funny next to each other.
Yeah, no, I think that's like the thing that works multiple times throughout this is they have the banana in the ear sketch later on and this museum sketch. And both times.
Because he is human Fozzie Bear, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not wrong.
I really like this UK spot because it continues to build on the fiction that Rolf is divorced from Lassie.
Yeah, but this time he's joined by Baskerville, Muppy, and Catgut, which is kind of a weird one to include in there.
Yeah.
But you have a group of dogs and one cat singing a song to Lassie's photo.
Yeah, and it's really cute. And he hugs Baskerville in such a cute way at the end. They're little buddies.
Do you mind? Baskerville is another sweet Jerry Nelson character. Do you mind Baskerville?
You know what, Matt?
Uh-oh.
Fuck you. I'm warming up to him. I kind of like Jerry Nelson now.
Wow, you've come a long way since the beginning of this podcast.
I think a bunch of characters that I didn't know were him are him, like Floyd. Is him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's like, oh, well, he has more range than I gave him credit for. And you know, Baskerville's great. And I think, yeah, I'm warming up to him. We finally get another veterinarian's hospital, which I think they are very funny, specifically at the end when the voice comes over and the voiceover starts and they're all like looking around. That makes me laugh every time for some reason.
Same. Every time that they don't know where the narrator is amazing. And also, like, every sketch starts off with Piggy's character doing something inappropriate with
Huffing
medical equipment.
gas or like,
She's like using a scalpel to like trim her eyebrows, or she's like huffing gas or doing something, and she always gets caught in the moment of like, ah, shit, we're on.
Yeah, I feel like and Veterinarian's Hospital feels so much more unhinged than a lot of the other skits do, where Frank is like being even naughtier than he usually is, and like Jim's kind of playing along with it, maybe because he's not Kermit. They all just get to be a little bit more like nasty or something than they usually are.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more edgy, and I like those.
And then we get my favorite Kermit line, maybe ever.
Oh, what is it? When
they're coming off of stage from the veterinarian's hospital bit, and they're like, you know, passing by his desk like normally happens after a sketch, he for some reason yells at them, all right, do not bask in the glory. 10 years from now, they'll have forgotten even the best of you.
Yeah, that was funny.
And I'm like, wow, that's the harshest like producer Kermit we've ever had, saying that 10 years from now, they'll have forgotten even the best of you.
He's a mean man.
And he turns to the camera and he attributes that quote to Newt Rockne, who was the coach of Notre Dame in the early 1900s.
What the hell?
He was apparently he was like a very quotable man who had like a lot of like pep talky type moments. I could not, in my like 5-second Google search, find this quote attributed to him. And it also apparently, he says Newt Rockne 1932, and that's like a year after Newt died. So I don't necessarily.
What the hell are they talking about?
I think it might just be one of those things where Newt Rockne was a quotable person, and so Kermit saying something like that and then attributing it to this guy would have been a joke that people would have gotten in the 70s.
Yeah, and they couldn't look it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, they just had to believe Kermit that Newt Rockne would say this terrible thing.
So did you like the banana in the ear gag better than what was the other banana thing?
The one that didn't exist, which was the banana sketch.
The old banana sketch, yeah.
Better, yes. I also didn't love it.
Oh, I thought it was really funny.
I like Avery and Fozzie working together against Statler and Waldorf, essentially, but I don't love the actual like payoff of any of it.
Oh, I thought it was great. Just how much more everybody loves Avery.
Yeah, that's true. I do like the joke of like Fozzie can do the exact same thing as somebody else, but yet if Avery sticks a banana in his ear, it's clearly funnier because of his. I think Statler and Waldorf say it's his pace, his timing, his delivery, his ear.
Yeah, and this was also the one where he mentions Jack Burns the most, where he's like, Jack would never let me put the banana in my ear. He said it looks stupid.
Yeah, and at the end he yells at the camera like, "See, Jack? It worked."
Yeah.
We get another Muppet News Flash, which is very similar to other Muppet News Flashes that we have had in the past, which again makes me feel like they have to do one of these even when they don't have a joke, because he runs in and says, "There's no news tonight," which is literally...
According to Muppet Wiki, it's from episode 105, so it's just the same.
So it's not even
one that
the
they've
same
already
joke.
done.
It's literally the same footage. Like, it's not even... Okay, yeah. Come on, guys. But then we end with a nice musical number where Avery is playing a song called Make a Song, which I guess if you got to title it something, that's fine. But it's mostly just nonsense noises that he's singing with a bunch of fun Kuzbanians and the eel from earlier, that horny eel that liked fish.
Yeah.
We get
Oh,
Shaky
yeah, he is there. I
Sanchez.
never noticed that. Yeah.
And yeah, he's just singing this nonsense song. And what I like is that the Muppets get to join in as well and also sing their own nonsense.
Yes, they have done away with the random assortment of Muppets being someone's backup band at this point, or like backup singers.
There's
and
no Hilda and George and Mildred just
Yes.
hanging out and singing for some reason.
We've picked specific Muppets for this particular reason. Like, these are weirdos because you're doing a weirdo thing, and that's so much better. When, like, if this had been made 10 episodes ago, he would have been surrounded by the people you just said. Brewster would be there.
Yeah.
But this is when I realized that he is just Jack Black, and that Jack Black has been alive forever in various forms, and this is one of them.
There's always some guy who's ready to go like root and boot and doot doo.
Yeah, there certainly is.
But yeah, all in all, I think, again, just pleasantly surprised that the episode turned out to be a lot more fun than I expected it to be. On April 25th, 1977, we have the Juliet Prowse episode, the first episode ever filmed back in January 1976. But it took this long to air in New York. I don't know why. It's a great episode, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like they really nailed it from the beginning.
I kind of feel like they aired it like that. Maybe they were balancing out the not as good episodes with the good episodes, is what it seemed. To feel
That's
like.
a good point. Like, you have your season finale be a really strong episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which just for some weird reason was their first episode.
This is the episode that I've probably seen the most times, because I think, as I mentioned in the past, what I would do with the Muppet Show DVDs would, like, I'd put them on and just, like, let it play all. And I would just, like, put it on, watch the first couple episodes, and then sort of, like, do other things while it was on. And then a few months later, I'd be compelled to, like, watch the Muppet Show again, and I would just start at the beginning again. And so I would see the Juliet Prowse episode, like, over and over and over, instead of just putting, like, the second disc in and moving on. So I have seen this one probably more than any other episode of the Muppet Show.
It's not a bad one to see the most of. It could have been Ruth Buzzy that you saw the most of. And then
Oh boy, I'd be like, the Muppet Show sucks.
Yeah.
It's worth noting here at the top that there are essentially two versions of this episode out there in the world. One, you won't get to see unless you go to the Paley Center for Media in New York, which I really want to do, because this is now my number one most desired thing I want to watch there. There is a pilot version of this episode that is longer. It features things we've never seen in the Muppet Show and is just a completely different vibe than what we get here. And I'll run through some of the quick notes. If you want to know more about what's different from this episode to the original pilot one, I encourage you to go read Muppet Wiki, or at MuppetCentral.com, they have a very, very thorough breakdown of this entire episode of, like, all the jokes that are different, the quotes, the sketches that are different, everything is, like, all listed out there. But some notable things are that in the opening theme song, one, the theme song is longer than it is here, and some different Muppets appear on the chorus line. The men's chorus line sings, "It's time to put on makeup, it's time to dress up right. You'll see the strangest creatures on the Muppet Show tonight." And then this is followed up by an animal chorus that is frogs and chickens that croak and cluck to the melody of the theme song. And then the camera, like, pans down the line and reveals that T.R. Rooster is there, who announces, "Now here's our leader, Kermit the Frog." And then Kermit comes on from behind the red curtain, like normally, and sings, "The show tonight will feature a lovely song or two." And then the curtain reveals Wayne and Wanda as they sing, "You Made Me Say I Love You." And the curtain rapidly closes back. So Wayne and Wanda got to be part of the opening number. And then Kermit comes back out. There's like 10 segments to the opening theme song in this original version. And then And every time Kermit comes out, he sings like another line of it. And every time it's rhyming with you for some reason. It's wild. And I understand why they cut it down, but I really want to see it because he comes out again and he says, we also have some dancing if that's what pleases you. And then we see some puppets dancing. And then he comes back out again and says, and Fozzie Bear will tell you some jokes you never knew.
What the hell?
And then Fozzie gets his little joke part. And then he comes out and says to introduce our guest star, it's what it's time to do. So it really makes me happy to introduce to you Miss Juliet Prowse. And instead of just showing an image of her behind them, she comes out on stage and sings, it's very nice to be here. I'm pleased to say hello.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so the whole theme song was very differently structured.
They went freaking crazy with the theme song.
Yeah, it's very long. I don't understand, but I think it's notable that I forgot to mention during the Avery Schreiber episode that that's the one time we hear a slightly different line in that part of the theme song, because in the Avery Schreiber episode, he sings to introduce our guest star, that's what it's time to do, instead of that's what I'm here to do.
Like he screwed up or something, maybe.
Yeah, but apparently that's like the original version that was in the original theme song. So who knows? So yeah, we get a whole bunch of different things in there where apparently at one point it sounds like Jim Henson is doing Gonzo's voice in the original pilot. And there's sort of a running gag with Menomina where he pops up more times throughout the episode to scare people. Kermit has his little suit on, which we see a couple times in this, but was featured more in the original pilot. And then two last little notes about the pilot. And again, there's a lot more to read if you want to read all of this. But the backstage Scooter and Muppy stuff is all new. None of that was in the pilot. Same with the like Simon Smith and his Dancing Bear sketch. Not in the pilot. And Jane Henson was credited as a performer in the pilot, but is not credited in the broadcast version of the episode. So yeah, I know it's a lot. There is even more if you want to find out and go read about it, but I thought it was really interesting that there is a pilot version of The Muppet Show that is not released anywhere to see. But one day we'll make that trip to New York and go check it out.
Well, and what we did get, the first thing we see is Menomina, which I thought this was a good performance of Menomina. He seems so sad in this one, though. More than usual.
Yeah, and which is interesting because I think this is the like version most people have seen. This is like the most popular version of Menomina, but this is the 6th time they've performed it. Whoa. And the 4th time that we've gotten to see it because we weren't able to find the This Is Tom Jones or the Pure Goldie versions, but we've seen it 4 other times. So it's interesting now to get to the version that is the most popular. And I agree that like it's still good, it's still great, but things are just a little less chaotic, a little less fun and like energetic.
Yeah. What was the talk show one? The
Dick Cavett.
Yes, the Dick Cavett one's my favorite one.
Same.
Because that one's so live and they're like laughing almost at each other. This one, Menomina usually like gets his revenge by the end, I feel like. Or like he has become the dominant force in this skit. But in this version, the Snouts, like, they just hate him and they like shake their head at him and he feels so bad every time. And he like runs away before he can like bowl him over or anything like that. And he just makes like the sad eyes a bunch of times. I feel bad for him in this one.
Yeah, and I wish they would have like kept the running gag going where he pops up. Because we only see him pop up in Statler and Waldorf's box at one point. But if he would have kept popping up and like scaring Juliet Prowse and other people, I feel like that would have like redeemed him a little bit and he could have been his own little interesting character. Backstage, we get, again, one of my favorite Muppet jokes ever, which is Kermit drinking a glass of milk and you see the milk going away in the glass, and he just looks at the camera and says, "Think about this, friends."
Yeah, I love this backstage skit. We'll talk about it when we get to the sketch, to the actual thing, like the payoff for it. There's a inconsistency that bothers me about it.
Ooh,
though.
Interesting. Well, next up then we have Gonzo doing one of his performances. This is the one where he is going to eat a tire to the music of Flight of the Bumblebee.
Yeah, probably his like most famous avant-garde thing. They've made a reference to it, I think, a couple other times in this season. So it's weird that it's the last thing you see him do, but this is clearly like the debut of Gonzo.
Well, and there's also a version of this on the Muppet Show album where he actually does the whole song and finishes the tire.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
They blew him off the stage in this one.
Yeah, I guess when you're recording it in a studio, no one can do that to you.
Okay, so then a bunch of other stuff happens, but then the Simon Smith act happens, which is one of my favorite things we've seen. Such a good song, so catchy. Fozzie and Scooter are cute together. 2 things bother me about it. Number 1, there's a dog playing piano right behind him.
I had the same
They could have got
thought.
Rolf to take over. He's a much nicer dog.
They act like Muppy is the only dog available for
Yeah.
the sketch.
You're friends with many dogs.
And much
then
more like entertaining dogs that aren't just
Yeah.
mostly actually a dog.
that talk and everything. Then, second of all, if this song was called Simon Smith and His Amazing Dancing Dog, none of that shit would have rhymed. The whole thing's based around the fact that everything rhymes with bear.
Yeah. No, it does not make sense at all. Every single line in this song rhymes with bear.
Scooter is an amazing songwriter. If on the walk to front stage, he was like, okay, bear, bear, what do I do?
I had to rewrite this entire song in my head right now.
Yeah.
No, I had the exact same two thoughts of like, get Rolf. And I feel like the joke could have been that every line sounds like it's about to end with dog or something that rhymes with dog, but he says bear instead.
Yeah, and then he has to just have the other rhyme that doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
But also, this song is great. So
Yes.
those are just like, those are the ultimate nitpicks. But I thought, I love this song. And this is, I first saw it at Jim Henson's funeral being performed. So it will always evoke that feeling.
I'd say that's a much sadder context to
unfortunately.
be watching this song in.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting that like this is caused by Muppy refusing to go on. Like Muppy is making all these demands, including wanting the show to be renamed as The Muppet Show.
Yeah. That was really good.
And even Muppy brings out a sign, like had a graphic made of The Muppet Show. And I kind of want that like on a shirt or something. I don't know what, but I want a Muppet Show merchandise.
I think a shirt would be good. It also makes Kermit lose his goddamn mind. He does one of his best screams I've ever heard when the Muppet Show thing happens.
Yeah. We have a Glee Club sketch that's sort of the final number, which is it's odd that they don't have the like celebrity be in the final number, which they usually
She's not in
do.
this very much at all.
No.
Juliet isn't.
And I think part of that is because they reshot things and like replaced certain sketches and things. Like maybe she had done more they cut out. I don't really know. But we have a Glee Club number where is the first time in production order that Piggy is expressing her love for Kermit.
Yeah.
So it was right from the start, the very first episode. We get Kermit and Piggy's relationship seed growing.
She's also voiced by Frank Oz and by the other person in this sketch.
Yeah,
right?
Richard Hunt does the singing for her in this, which like clearly means that he had pre-recorded the singing. And Frank Oz is doing the talking. So it's a very weird disconnect when she starts singing and sounds completely different. But yes, we get at the end of this episode, we get the Muppet likeness again, which we saw in the Connie Stevens episode, which they were trying to establish as a thing that was going to keep happening all the time. And it doesn't. It only happens with those two, where they bring out another Muppet that has been imbued with the soul of Juliet Prowse, who is even like sadder in this one because she asks if she can go live with her.
Can I come live with you? And then it's like, yeah, but it's like, what are you going to do when you get home? That's creepy.
Yeah, it's like you were just like forced to adopt a child. Like,
Look, who is you?
and it's maybe
your-
supposed to
and
be like the
your
same
friends-
age as you.
Yeah, and your friends come over and you're like, yeah, that's me as a Muppet. So
Yeah. I
don't
don't know.
don't look at it.
It's a
for too
bizarre
long.
concept.
Yeah. Well, okay, we found a way to talk about 4 episodes in a longer amount of time than 5 episodes.
And we still have more to talk about, Sam.
We do.
We
Okay,
got
okay.
Dinah, we got Good Day, we got the crew video.
God.
Let's get through this. We got to cram it all in.
Okay.
So first up, to talk about here, in May of 1977 is when the Muppets appear on Dinah with Ethel Merman. We only get to see some short moments here of Ethel Merman coming out, interacting with Paul Williams and Fozzie and Kermit, and then they sing together wherever we go. But this whole episode was devoted to Kermit's 21st birthday, even though he was actually like 22.
Well, they do say happy birthday to him a bunch of times. Yeah.
Yeah, but they bring out a cake, they throw a 21st birthday party for him, and they have other people, not just Ethel Merman and Paul Williams. They have Ruth Buzzy, Valerie Harper, Florence Henderson, and Jane Henson all come out.
What?
Yeah.
Jane Henson? That's weird. Were they separated at this time?
I think technically they kind of maybe were, but
Okay.
they were sort of in that separation where they would be separated forever, but technically still married.
Huh.
Uh,
Damn, that'd be a great one to see.
Yeah, so I think it's that's one of those things too. It's like there's photos of it. You can see they have a cake and all the guest stars are out there with them. But it's kind of disappointing that we don't get to see the rest of that, because what we do get to see is a very charming Ethel Merman being delighted by Muppets and a very awkward
she
Paul
loves
Williams.
Paul Williams is a very weird man. Yeah.
There's a
He doesn't
moment
do a good job introducing their sketch at all.
No, there's a moment in this where Dinah is like shooing off Ethel Merman and Frank and Jim and Fozzie and Kermit to be like, hey, go do your number, and I'm going to give you a great introduction. She's like, builds it up way too much, because what happens is she turns to Paul Williams and is like, hey, you want to help me introduce them? And he's like, I guess if I have to. And then they have like a 3-minute conversation about how they're going to introduce them, who they should introduce first, what they're going to do. And in the end, Paul Williams just says, well, here they go.
Let's just let them do it. Yeah. They don't have any good chemistry together,
No,
those two.
no natural rapport at all between Dinah Shore and Paul Williams.
Though, and I think it's all Paul Williams' fault.
Yes, he's bringing a very awkward energy to that moment.
Yeah, he seems mad.
Yeah. And then September 1977, we watched Cookie Monster on Good Day, which is a Boston morning show. And this is just Clark Terry, who's a jazz musician, sings a song called Mumbles. That is just, again, sort of like a fun, nonsensy kind of song.
Seems like a song the Muppets would perform. That's
absolutely. My favorite parts of this is that the morning show host is trying to introduce this and trying to segue by saying, like, Cookie Monster told me that he wanted to learn how to sing Mumbles with you, Clark. And Cookie Monster, Frank Oz, is just like, I did not say that.
I didn't say that. Yeah,
You're making this up. You're lying.
Yeah.
He completely, like, does not yes and at all, but then turns it around because he's like, I would like to do that, but I did not say that.
Did not say that. Yeah. That was so funny.
Yeah.
I miss Cookie Monster. We haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah.
But
he's very chaotic and great.
Yeah.
Because
he's so funny.
Throughout this whole performance, we get a very good Cookie Monster just like jumping in. It doesn't seem like it was very well rehearsed, but Frank Oz is doing his best.
But then I like eventually when he's like, I'm just going to let this guy do his thing. And he bops around. And then at the end, what's his name?
Clark Terry.
Then at the end, Clark Terry adds in the word cookie to the end of the song.
And he's like, oh!
Cookie Monster's like, oh, yeah.
There's also a very sweet moment where when Cookie Monster is like holding a long note or something like that, he's like got his mouth open really wide and is like very close to Clark Terry. And you see Clark Terry like lean in really close to Cookie Monster's mouth. And then he like pulls back and like act like he had bad breath.
Oh, and then at one point he kisses Cookie Monster too. Yeah. He goes...
It's very sweet and very like chaotic and good, and
it was.
I'm glad we got to watch it because it is one of those things. It's like just a Boston morning show that I'm sure not a lot of people got to see. So and we had to watch it on Vimeo. So clearly, it's not out there in the world.
I'll link it in the episode notes, and you should watch it. Yeah, you should watch it. It's really short and really, really cute.
Yeah. And the last thing we watched this week was the crew video, which we already talked about quite a bit, and there's not really a lot more to say about it.
No. You should also watch that. It's really long and really cute.
Yes, it's about 9 minutes long, but it felt like everything was done sort of in one take, that they were like, okay, we got like an hour to use these sets. Hurry up. But they hit all of the sort of like the best moments of season 1. They have like a cute joke bit in there. They have Veterinarian's Hospital.
They dump flour on a lady.
Yeah, they say like we have a flower arrangement for you, and they just dump flour on her.
They do set up some flash pots though, so they worked hard on this.
Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about it is that in the Veterinarian's Hospital sketch, one of the guys who's like in the Janice role just completely forgets his line, and they don't like cut, they don't move on, they just like all stop, and then the one guy starts pointing at him like, "Hey, it's your time to go. Say your line," and it still like takes 30 seconds before he's like, "Oh, right, that's me."
Yeah, that was good, and they do the look around at the voice thing too, to find out where the voice is coming from of the narrator. I couldn't understand what they were saying at a lot of points.
Yeah, it was very British.
Yeah. And not even just that. It was just like the sound was bad and they were very mumbly.
Yes. The video and audio quality on this clip is not great because it was uploaded, I think, on YouTube by somebody who worked on the Muppet Show and like found this tape somewhere, because he says like he was not in this video. He worked there later, but he uploaded this video because he thought it was good. And it's been on YouTube for like 10 years now, so clearly no one really cares that it's out there. But
yeah, no harm in that.
Yeah.
I really liked the old men who were Statler and Waldorf. They were like literally real life versions of Statler and Waldorf, and they were so cute.
Yeah. I like that he breaks up at the end too. Like they nail the joke, and at the end he just like kind of laughs at himself for being great. I do like the man who is playing Kermit throughout. His whole Kermit impression is to just like wave his hands very like sleepily in front of his face, like constantly.
It's so weird. And no one else is doing it, and he just keeps doing it. It's so bad.
Yeah. And like his face is not in it like his face is not committing at all.
Deadpan.
But he's just like wearing a
Deadpan.
tuxedo and his hands are just like always up, like as if he's like almost being like a marionette type puppet.
Yeah, he's misunderstanding the assignment for sure. But if I had gotten this video, if I was the Muppet people, I would be like in tears. It's so nice.
Yeah, it's so sweet, and I think it's very, very endearing. And so like if you watch it like kind of understanding the context, I think it's a very endearing thing. If you just like came across this on YouTube looking at Muppet Show clips and found this, you'd be very confused. It's also always nice to see sort of the scale of some of these sets. Because for some reason, I always, in my brain, they are smaller because the puppets are like not quite human size. But a lot of these sets, even when they stick a human in them, don't look tiny. So
No.
it's, I want to like be able to step into the Muppet Theater and see everything, the actual scale that it is. Because I have a hard time rationalizing what that looks like. Well, we talked so much about so many things today, Sam, but we still have one last big segment to get to, and that is our Muppet of the Week.
It better be fast, Matt, or I want to knock your block off.
Well, surprise, it's two Muppets. But I will make it fast. It's Statler and Waldorf.
Oh, this is going to be a long one. Continue.
Surprisingly, not actually. But I will race through some of these things. For those that are listening to this episode, we've been recording for like 2 hours already, and it's a very long recording, so we're trying to hurry up. Sorry if it sounds rushed. But yeah, it felt weird to separate Statler and Waldorf, so I didn't. And yeah, they're the old hecklers in the balcony in the Muppet Show. You know who they are. Waldorf is the one with the white hair and the mustache. He sits on the left, and then they're almost always together, although we do see them apart for some sketches in this season specifically, and also Waldorf is by himself in the Muppet Meeting films and on Des O'Connor Entertains, where he's sort of playing a separate, he's sort of playing a different character in those ones.
Yeah.
Statler and Waldorf were named after two New York City hotels, the Statler Hotel and the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. And eventually we will see Waldorf's wife, who is named Astoria.
Do we see her or just hear about her?
We see her because she looks exactly like Statler in a wig.
Oh. Wait, Waldorf's wife looks like Statler in a wig?
Yes.
That's fun.
It's very good. And they don't even reference it or say anything about that fact. They don't they're not related. There's nothing brought up about it. It's just clearly the Statler puppet in a wig.
Oh.
Statler and Waldorf had looked relatively unchanged since their very first appearance in Sex and Violence, when they were just sitting in a den, almost dying every time we saw them.
Yeah. They feel much better now, though.
Yeah. And recently, it's worth noting, some original Statler and Waldorf heads went up for auction.
Ooh.
Just the heads were at auction. You could buy them as a set. How much do you think they went for, Sam?
$125,000.
You know what? You're off, but not by a ton. $95,000 for two Muppet heads.
Okay, that seems low to me.
Well, they were originally predicted to go for about $40,000 to $60,000, so they actually went for more than people assumed they would. I couldn't find any information on who bought them, but I'm very curious who's going to have Statler and Waldorf's heads in their den now.
That's too bad you didn't buy them, so we could each have one.
Well, I don't have a spare $95,000 sitting around, Sam.
Oh, yeah, okay.
According to the character encyclopedia, Statler retired from his Wall Street job, and Waldorf used to own a clothing shop for lawyers called Lawsuits While You Wait.
Okay, I know those are bullshit, but I could see both of those things.
Yeah, the Muppet character encyclopedia is kind of non-canon in many ways. It seems like Craig Shemin just had a lot of fun making up lore for a lot of the Muppets, but I enjoy all of it, even if it's not really based on anything that ever happens in anything ever. When it comes to performers, I think Statler and Waldorf may have the most performers we've ever had listed out on this show. Statler started off with Jerry Nelson performing him in 1975 on Muppet Show Sex and Violence. And then for the bulk of Statler's life, he has been performed by Richard Hunt, which was from 1976 to 1991. I say bulk because 1991, for some reason, doesn't feel long ago to me, even though it's a very long time ago. And after Richard Hunt's death, Jerry Nelson took over again and was Statler from 1992 to 2003. So that was from Muppet Christmas Carol all the way up through the famous Muppets Party Cruise, which we'll eventually talk about.
And play, maybe.
Yeah. And then in 2003, Bill Beretta did a one-off as Statler on Jimmy Kimmel. Drew Massey did some performances as Statler in 2005 and 2006. Artie Esposito performed Statler at the D23 Expo in 2009. Dave Goelz performed Statler in Little Big Planet 2 in 2011.
The hell?
And then Steve Whitmire was the actual performer of Statler from 2002 until 2016, when he was unceremoniously removed of his Muppeting duties. And Peter Linz, who is Ernie and other characters, has been Statler ever since. So from 2017 until present, Peter Linz has been doing Statler.
Wow, he gets around.
Yeah. And then we've got Waldorf, who was performed by Jim Henson from 1975 until 1990. In the Muppet Meeting films, Jerry Nelson was the one performing the weird, off-brand Waldorf. In Des O'Connor Entertains, John Lovelady performed Waldorf, so another even more off-character Waldorf in that one. In Muppets Tonight, Kevin Clash performs Waldorf. And then Victor Yared took over in From the Balcony and Muppets Ahoy. And then in Little Big Planet 2, again, Steve Whitmire took over and did Waldorf in that one. But the actual sort of main performer for Waldorf since Jim Henson's death has been Dave Goelz, who has been doing it since 1992 until now, because Dave Goelz is still doing his Muppet thing. And it's worth mentioning that in Muppet Babies, they show up as Uncle Statler and Uncle Waldorf in the old series, and as Mr. Statler and Mr. Waldorf in the new reboot.
They're always old. They're still old, though.
Yes, they're always old. And in the old cartoon, they were both performed by Dave Coulier.
That seems wrong.
Yeah. And a couple little fun facts here just to round out Statler and Waldorf. Statler's grandson visits with Statler and Waldorf at one point in the third season of The Muppet Show. So that's their only family, is Waldorf's wife and Statler's grandson that we get to see. And it is revealed in A Muppet Family Christmas that the two are friends with Fozzie's mom.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, and last weird fun fact, in Le Muppet Show, the French redub of The Muppet Show, the two are often designated as Le Deux Gâteaux. No, I'm not saying that right, but it translates to the two seniles.
Oh, no.
Yep.
That's mean.
Yep. But yep, that's Statler and Waldorf. Do we rate them as a pair or individually?
Oh, I think we rate them. I would rate them as a pair, I suppose.
Well, what are you going to rate them out of 5?
I do actually like Statler a little bit more than I like Waldorf.
Same.
He seems nicer.
He's just got more, a more dynamic character, whereas I feel like Waldorf is kind of a one-note kind of character.
Just like a little creep. But Statler's the one who went backstage and wanted to date Valerie Harper, right?
Yes.
Which is nice. I like them. I like the little, I don't know, I like their little wrinkle they add to the show, just like the two old men who've probably been sitting in that box watching vaudeville for decades and decades. I think they have kind of Tweety Bird, Tasmanian devil disease a little bit, where rude people use them to have t-shirts that say mean things on them.
Right.
A little bit too often. And there's also that piece of stock art of them with their arms crossed standing back to back, which I really hate. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so. There's some very weird / great terrible images of them that they've taken for different trading cards and calendars and stuff throughout the years. There's one from a trading card from the 90s where they're wearing denim jackets and they're each holding an apple.
Oh,
and I don't get
weird.
it.
Weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of
very strange.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit. Their reputation is a little tarnished in my eyes. I'm going to give them a 3.5 collectively.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to give them a solid 44 out of 60.
Okay.
I feel like they're all the same things you've talked about. I think they are used in ways that does taint their, reputation a little bit. And there are times when I am very happy that they show up. And then there's other times where I'm like, okay, that's clearly the only thing you guys could think of was to add a Statler and Waldorf joke in here. And I don't necessarily want that right now.
Uh-huh. Exactly. They're used to cover up patches, and that's very obvious when that is the case.
Yeah. Well, all right, Sam, we did it. We powered through. As you mentioned earlier, somehow we found a way to talk about less episodes in more time. But on top of all that Muppet stuff we watched this week, did you watch anything non-Muppets?
You know what I did? But my problem lately is I've been watching a bunch of stuff that I just don't like.
Oh, no.
I watched Air Force One. Didn't really like it that much. I watched the first episode of The Haunting of Hill House. Yeah, it was all right. That's about it. Oh, you know what? I'm ashamed of myself, but I fell into a into a No Man's Sky hole. They've updated it like a million times, so I played it for like 4 hours yesterday.
Yeah.
And now you can play it like multiplayer, which is pretty fun. So it's like pretty fun now. But I probably will play it again in 8 more months for 4 more hours, is my guess, because I don't play video games very often anymore.
Yeah, I bailed on No Man's Sky early when it was in its worst form.
That was like 5 years ago. Can you believe that?
Yeah, and I've heard so many good things about it since then, but I just feel like if I don't have the time to commit to diving fully back into that game, I'm not going to enjoy it the way everyone else is getting to, but I wish everyone well on their No Man's Sky journeys.
How about you? Have you watched anything?
Yeah, I've been watching, I don't even remember if I mentioned this before on the podcast, but I've been watching For All Mankind on Apple TV Plus, which is the space show set in the Apollo era. And yeah, it's one of those where I watched the first episode back like when it first came out and then kind of forgot that it existed. And then I've been getting back into season 1 now and really, really enjoying it. It's one of those shows that I don't hear anyone talk about ever. And I'm sort of surprised because it's really, really good.
I feel like the only Apple TV show that broke out was Ted Lasso, I feel like.
Yeah, I think Ted Lasso is the one that's making everyone sign up for Apple TV.
Yeah.
And then they've got some really good stuff on there, though, that is worth checking out. If you've already got it because of Ted Lasso, I would say give For All Mankind a chance. So that is it for season 1 of The Muppet Show. We talked about it all. And thankfully, we are leaving behind the house sketches. We will no longer have to talk about another house sketch.
Ugh,
we are, sadly, according to me, leaving behind the Go-Go Lala Jubilee Jug Band. We will never see them again.
We will get another jug band, though.
Yes, Lubbock Lou and his jug huggers will come in. The talk spot is going to become more infrequent going forward, unfortunately. These were the last of Wayne and Wanda that we will see, aside from, like, they'll pop up as individual characters a couple more times, but we will no longer see a Wayne and Wanda type dancing, singing sketch. And At the Dance isn't going completely away, but it also gets more and more infrequent as these seasons go on. So that is our little in memoriam to season 1 things that we will not have to either endure or enjoy anymore.
And Hilda's basically gone.
Yes,
right?
Hilda is gone because Aaron Oskar is no longer working with the Muppets after season 1. So some of her characters move on to other performers, like Janice will move on to Richard Hunt, and Hilda just goes away. Although we will see her pop up in the background of certain things. She does not have any more speaking roles.
Boo, that's sad.
So next week, we are going to be changing things up a little bit from the way we've been doing things. We are still going to be talking about The Muppet Show as we move on to season 2 of The Muppet Show. But we are going to be reducing the number of Muppet Show episodes we talk about in one episode of this podcast, just so we don't have to try and cram so much in, and also so the episodes don't end up being like 3 hours long. So that means that next week we will be watching the first 3 episodes of The Muppet Show Season 2 in New York airing order, featuring guests George Burns, Rich Little, and Madeline Kahn. But that'll be what we talk about next time. For now, we need to thank our friend Tuna for creating the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at CommitmentPod, where you will find the playlist of other things that we watch besides The Muppet Show episodes. And you can also email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any Muppet memories you'd like to share with us. You can follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm at Slam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.